Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Kaba Ilco number 7165UE2-46. This is a mortise cylinder is what this is. It's a brass mortise cylinder is what all of this means. And the part number conspires to mean this exact derivative of this type of mortise cylinder. And the best way to really understand what we're dealing with here is to really dissect the part number, and let's do so now. This is a Kaba Ilco 7165. That means that it is a 1-inch long mortise cylinder. Mortise cylinders are measured from the underside of the head to the back of the cam, and you can see that that's 1 inch long. Best wants you to refer to the length of the brass portion itself on some cylinders, and I like that method too, because if you're trying to determine the length of a cylinder that you might want for an unusual door thickness, it's kind of handy to know the length of that brass portion. But how thick is a cam at that point? You can see that the brass portion is about 7/8, so our cam is about 1/8 of an inch. But mortise cylinders, as a rule, are measured from the underside of the head to the back of the cam. Okay, that's 7165. That's 1 inch by Kaba Ilco. Now the UE, that stands for a Lorry 80 Keyway. Lorry was a lock company for sure from the 1960s, probably until about, I don't know, 2000, something in that range. Maybe the late 90s. I don't know the history of the Lorry Lock Company, a New England company. And they manufactured cylinders and locks, and you can certainly bump into Lorry locks in lots of places, especially older installed areas. You'll find them in Chicago, where locks have been installed for 150 years, or obviously more than that. And you'll certainly find Lorry lock everywhere. The Lorry 80 Keyway, that is a bit of a mystery, but it is representative of the profile of this key. It's a bit of a mystery in the sense that at some point Kaba Ilco purchased Lorry lock, but there was some arrangement where the Lorry 80 Keyway, while Kaba Ilco would manufacture it, there was no agreement or permission given to expressly share the Lorry 80 Keyway information. I don't know the history, and I'm grasping at straws. But if you're trying to do research on a Lorry 80 Keyway, unless you, for some stroke of luck, have a 1970s Lorry catalog, you may not bump into much information about it. But what we can do is look at the broaching profile below this video to show you what that looks like. So that's the cylinder plug that's there, and the broaching is when they take that piece of brass and they run forcefully a tool through it, and they broach, the term is broach, when they broach that piece of solid brass, it will give that profile required so that the opposite profile will insert into it. So when you're looking at that broaching profile below this video, it's the opposite as if you're looking at it this way. If you're looking at that broaching profile, you're looking down into the cylinder. So if you're looking from the bow towards the tip of the key, then you've got it right. But if you're looking at it towards the tip of the key to the bow, in your mind's eye, you have to flip that around. Okay, so that's a Lorry 80, and we'll touch on that a little bit more, I suppose. The 2 in the part number means that's an 863A cam, a number 2 cam by Kaba Ilco, also known as an Adams Wright or MS style cam. Adams Wright has 3 different cams that operate their locks. This cam operates 99.9% of all their locks. There are 2 others. One of them is a standard cam. The other is a shortened standard cam. Just because I happen to be thinking of it, if you're dealing with a 5017 lock from Adams Wright or a 4077, those 2 are going to take a funny cam. Everything else, I think, is going to take a Adams Wright MS style cam. MS is Adams Wright trademark for maximum security. It's just a marketing name. Moving through the part number, the 46, that tells us this is what's called a Duracolor Brown, a very attractive bronze, dark bronze type of finish, although it's a little bit lighter than what you might encounter if you were looking at dark bronze. They have a 10B finish, which is oil rub bronze, which will certainly serve to be darker than this, but that's a really great complementary color to aluminum storefront. You know, typical bronze, dark bronze aluminum storefront, that would look great. Any information that comes after that speaks to the keying of the material. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to switch to the screen view and move forward into additional information regarding the cylinder. Okay, now this is the item that we're looking at here. Okay, this was the broaching that I was referring to earlier, and this is the 2 in the part number refers to this cam style. As an aside, let's take a look at the different cams from Kaba Ilco, and there's a table that we have here that shows all of these different cams, and they will all fit on this conventional cylinder. If we're dealing with interchangeable core, there's a different set of cams available, but I just went to the part number for that cam, and that table is listed here. You know, obviously the 863G standard cam is going to be very, you know, incredibly common, along with the A cam, the Adams Right cam. Here is that smaller, I said 4077 earlier. It's a 4070 is what we have here. The third possibility for Adams Right would really just be a standard cam. But all the other cams are here. If you're looking to do, you know, Schlage's beaver tail cam, some people call it, etc., that's all listed there. Now, as you change that part number again, you change the cam. That's your broaching. 1 inch length. 1 inch length. 5 pin. I believe these are drilled 6, but we'll check that when we get to the product catalog. This is a Lori 80 Keyway. We'll talk more about that. There's your cam. It can be keyed. We'll talk about that as well. Duracolor Brown, made of solid brass, and that's what gives it its incredibly smooth operating functionality that you're going to experience from it. Really great quality product, and it's because it's made of an architectural base material. 1.15 inch diameter at 32 ultra-fine threads per inch. That is a standard. I don't know how long that standard has existed on the thread type of mortise cylinders, but my belief is that it goes back to likely the mid-19th century, something in that range. Cylinder face diameter, should that be important? It would be 1.36 inch. Okay. Now, the link to the manufacturer's page, go ahead and click on that, and then let's get to the brass cylinder manual. And that's going to allow us to search for the 7165 part number, and we're going to be able to see that that is a 1 inch 5-pin cylinder. It is not drilled 6. Too short of a cylinder to have it 6 pins, so be mindful. However, in a UE, which is the next part of our part number, UE, I know that that is going to be available only in a 5-pin. It's 5-pin only on a Lori 80. Now, what's interesting about the Lori 80 is, as I had said earlier, there's not really any information available. So if you're out there and your lock says Lori, you're going to need to scrutinize or study your broaching in your cylinder along with the maybe the key itself. And if you're looking for key blanks, Corbin, pardon me, I'm looking at Corbin, Kaba Ilco has a cheat sheet, so to speak, and it is on page 20 of their brass cylinder catalog. And that cheat sheet allows you to look at the order code for the keyway and then get the part number for the key blank. Well, they don't really have a part number for this Lori 80 key blank, okay, except that they call it Lori Centric. Now, if we get to the website and type in Lori Centric, you will find that key blank, okay. From there, you'll be able to study what the 5-pin blank looks like and the profile of the key blank as you scroll through and look at all of the rest of the keys that we have listed here, okay, shown here for your review. So if you have Lori, you're going to need to do some, if you have Lori locks and you believe it to be a Lori 80, you'll need to do some investigative research to determine whether or not this is going to work for you. So back to our page, as we dissect our part number, cam or tailpiece, That's the 2 in the part number. So let's look at cam or tailpiece, the finish, and the keying, because that's all on the next page. So our cams are listed on page 7. And again, that number 2 stands for Adams Right. Well, let's say that you're doing a Marks lock. Well, you're going to want a 5 cam. Okay? Or if you're doing that 40-70 Adams Right, you'll want a 20 cam. You get the picture, is how that works. After that, you'll have finish. Lots of finishes available from Kaba Ilco. Lots of finishes stocked. They're all not stocked, but on special order basis, they can be accommodated, usually in multiples of 10, however. If you wanted, let's say, US 32, they'll do that, but that's not going to be stock, so they're going to be looking for a multiple of 10. But your common 03, 10B, polished brass, oil rub bronze, satin chrome, maybe black, certainly 46, because that's what we're working on. Okay, so finishes are certainly available as well on this. Then we get into our key to like, key different variants. Now we can do keying here as well, and should you have a need for your order to be keyed in any particular instance or arrangement, we will happily be able to support you with that and do your keying. I would expect that if you're dealing with a Lori 80 system, you have a level 2 system at most, which means you've got locks that are key to like, keyed differently, and possibly master keyed. Master keyed would be level 2, and it's unlikely that you'll get beyond that, because where you're going to find Lori 80 locks installed will be in residential construction from the 70s and 80s, would be my guess. Last time I sold a whole mess of key blanks, it was to an apartment building built in the 1970s for a client, or maybe 1980s. And he needed several hundred key blanks so that he can continue to service the system. They did the keying work locally, but the locksmith said, well, I don't have any of these blanks. If you can get the blanks, I can key the locks. Well, that's where we came in and got the client the key blanks. Okay, so very, really great document to have access to. Now, speaking of that, before we wrap this up in this video, this link to the manufacturer's page. Okay, let's finish up this video on camera while you have this link open in front of you. Okay, now that link to the manufacturer's page, that brass cylinder manual, that's really handy. There's a link to the key blank catalog, and while it has no information on a Lori-centric or a Lori 80 key blank, there is hundreds of pages worth of valuable information there. The available Keyways North American domestic lock cylinders, they have an outrageous quantity. And the way it works with a Kaba Ilco or a Jet or a Taylor, these manufacturers that make cylinders and key blanks, if there's enough demand in the marketplace to make a Lori 80 or a Schlage F or a Corbin 59 Keyway, they're going to manufacture that material. Obviously, assuming it's no longer under patent protection, of course. So that key blank catalog is really handy. It may not solve your problem in terms of helping you identify you've got this mystery key blank in your hand, but it will always help you get closer to the answer, is the bottom line. That's to be quite sure. Now, the other links that are on that page, links to the key machines that they have. That information will be more so helpful for locksmiths, people looking for that information. But any encyclopedic reference documents, including some historical catalogs that we have here, we've got an Ilco catalog from 1950, another one from 1972. We grow those archival historical catalog available resources. It's a hobby of mine. I search out old catalogs and upload them, basically, for everyone to be able to look at. It's fun to be able to look at old catalogs. It's also sometimes incredibly useful when you're doing research on something to have access to those old documents. A bunch of other encyclopedic documents are there as well. As I had said earlier, I'm partial to Kaba Ilco. I'll say I'm very partial. Very high quality components, because that's made of solid brass. They just do a really great job. I have a gentleman there in technical support for cylinders at Kaba Ilco who is an irreplaceable resource when it comes to all things Kaba Ilco cylinder information related. If you have any questions on the Kaba Ilco 7165UE2 in a 46 finish or any other Kaba Ilco product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.